What's up, y'all? My name is Sawyer and
Matt Michaels.
and we're here with the Refresh Cast, episode 14. But who's counting? I am. Probably gonna just like 2 episodes. Yeah. Ongoing jokes. We love them here. Dude, what are we talking about today, bro?
So, neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to create new neural pathways. So, change your mind, you change your life.
Dude, so I want to ask you, what sparked your interest in the connection between like positive thinking and neuroplasticity?
Well, really, so when I was in a state of chronic illness and I was looking for ways to heal, you start getting into spirituality and meditation, and as you start really diving into spirituality, one of the main principles is everything is mind, right? So your external reality is always a reflection of your mindset and your belief systems. So if you want to heal yourself, it all starts with healing the way that you think.
Okay, so like what is neuroplasticity, bro?
So neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to create new neural pathways or new ways of thinking. So the brain is pretty lazy. Like it's always going to go down the same path if you allow it. So, if you are in some form of trauma, you create this neural pathway and you live that over and over. That's why you just repeat these cycles. So neuroplasticity is doing something different, saying something different, thinking different. It creates new ways of thinking, new patterns, and then that results in a new way of living, essentially.
So like where does the pathway lead to? Let's talk about this pathway. Like where does it start? Where does it end? How do you form a new one? Like how do these what does it look like whenever it starts to form a new one? Like how does this shit break it down?
So basically, whenever you're thinking, you have a pathway from one neuron to another neuron, and it travels that way. So it's just think about it as a path which you walk to get from one place to another, and you just constantly take that same easy path because it's what you know. Now, so say that you had a traumatic experience as a kid, some sexual trauma, and then every time you get into a relationship, you relive that over and over again. So you create a new neural pathway by when you get into that relationship, when you recognize the pattern, and then you choose to do something else with it. So let's talk about attachment styles for a second. So you have the anxious attachment or the avoidant, right? So I'm going to avoid it. So typically for me, my typical pathway is when there's a conflict, just avoid it and step away from it. Avoid intimacy, avoid anything that's uncomfortable. So to create a new neural pathway, I would recognize I'm having this desire to leave, but instead I'm choose to stay, and then you create a new neural pathway. You're creating a new way of thinking, which is creating a new way of being.
Nice. I'm anxious attachment, so my neural pathway is like, do you love me?
Yeah.
So like to create a new pathway, I have to be like, relax. It's not that deep.
Well, or just like, so for you, just telling your partner, hey, I'm feeling this way right now. I know it's not necessarily a true story, but I'm feeling this way right now. Rather than just like, having that neediness, you can express yourself confidently, and then that will start, I am secure. Like, my partner is there for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Happy to report that, like, me and Reb have that self-awareness where I'm like, hey, I know I'm tripping right now. Like, it's obvious.
Right.
Let's continue. So, like, having that awareness is huge. And maybe that awareness is the first step to creating that new
100%. It is that self-awareness.
Yeah. Dude, that's so huge. Okay, so let's talk about like mindset and how it influences the brain's ability to change and adapt. Like people are stuck in these modems, and you kind of touched on what the best way to break out of it is, but what's the science behind whenever they start to form those new neural pathways? And then how long does it take to strengthen, to really create? Because it feels like some of these beliefs are so subconsciously rooted.
Yeah.
So what can you expect whenever you start that journey?
Well, a lot of ups and downs, right? It's definitely not linear. So let's just I like to talk about my relationship with money a lot when I talk about this, because I grew up in a family where lack was always talked about. There's never enough. And so that's a deep subconscious belief that there's never enough money, that money's hard to come by, that you gotta like save all of your pennies to make things work. And so then you continue to experience this life of lack because that's what you believe. So how do you start to change that? Well, there's lots of different ways, but for one, like meditation creates new neural pathways, which we'll talk about in a second. Doing affirmations, doing journaling, just writing the opposite of whatever it is that you're trying to create new thinking patterns about. So speaking that I am wealthy, I am abundant, writing that down on a regular basis begins to create new thinking patterns. And it's about consistency and repetition. So oftentimes people are like, yeah, I tried that, it didn't work. Well, you tried it for a week. You've had this thinking pattern since you were 20 years. Yeah. Like I've been in a serious journey of changing my mindset with money for a couple of years now, and I'm not even close to being done, although I've seen some big shifts. I think the other thing to realize is that obstacles are going to come because it's your subconscious wants to keep you there, right? And the opportunities are going to come for you to, despite the fact that you're experiencing the opposite of what you're trying to create, if you continue to push on, continue with the affirmations, continue with the journaling, eventually you start to get a new neural pathway. So like when I first started working with clients, it was like $50 a session. And I was like, oh, am I worth $50 a session? But now I sell multi-$1,000 packages. And that is the work that's being done through the neuroplasticity, through the journaling, through the affirmations, through the meditation. But it's this extended process, and it's not easy, and I still have some of the same struggles, but it changes at a higher number than it used to be.
Yeah, and it's cool that so I did that, I applied that last week where it's my money mindset. I was like, dude, I'm tired of having these thoughts. Like, I'm tired of thinking the same shit. The reoccurring belief was, I don't have any money. And I'm like, dude, if you keep thinking that, you're never going to have any freaking money.
Yeah.
I said freaking. We're trying to cuss when I still live guys. Trying to make it not so notable that I'm 26-year-old. Dude, I don't and the only way to get myself out of that is to write down the complete opposite. So I wrote a list of my, the negative beliefs and then the opposite belief that I'm writing, that I would write it down to change.
Totally.
So I don't have any money. I am in the process of manifesting abundance. That's what I wrote down. That's so much. So now to create that new neural pathway, I have to catch myself. Every time I say, well, I don't have any money. No, I'm in the process of manifesting abundance. And it's cool because it's such a higher frequency thought.
Yes. And again, what was the key is the self-awareness that you're having these thoughts that are holding you back from getting that money. So first you have the awareness, and then you correct yourself. You consciously make a decision to correct those negative thinking patterns that you have. And that really is the beginning of it.
What are some common misconceptions about neuroplasticity and mindset?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is people think people can't change. And you hear that all the time. People don't change. You can't change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, actually, we are designed to change. We're designed to adapt to our surroundings and change our thinking patterns. And if you're not, it's not because it can't be done. It's because you're choosing not to do the work to do that. And so we can change any thinking patterns, our belief system over time. But again, it's that consistency. It's that repetition. It's refusing to give up. And eventually your external experiences will reflect the changes that you're working on through the neuroplasticity.
That's a good segue into this. How does the brain physically change in response to new thoughts and behaviors?
Well, first, if you ever... All right, they use these, I think they're called EKGs. Okay,
they are.
Okay, and so you can actually measure the electrical outputs and you can see the neurons firing. And as you begin to work on the neuroplasticity, you see the neurons firing in new locations because you're building new pathways. So the brain will actually change and adapt, which is so cool, man. They say that we use, 10% of our brains or something like that?
Allegedly.
So when you actually start to do this, you start to unlock other parts of your brains that are not being used. And then it's who's to say what's actually possible if you continuously did that. I mean, or the same thing with they will measure a brain when meditating and new parts of the brain light up. You're actually activating different parts of the brain that are not active when you're just consciously living life. So I think that's the coolest thing is really it's infinite potential once you start to really work on that kind of stuff.
I can say that I've experienced that more so in terms of like remote viewing. I've been able to really go deeper into meditation and like the belief that I can and the knowledge that is like if we're only using 10% of our brain, that 90% there's miracles to work there. 100, you know, and just allowing myself to not be so concerned with is this real, is it not real, but more dialed into the practice, right? Like when you're, oh hey, we got some puppy love on the show, and I wonder if like love from dogs creates new neural pathways. Like man, if you're like a hardened person and you're like maybe you have a hard time opening your heart chakra or you're kind of closed off to love, like I want to ask you about that first shift towards love, like that. I don't know if it was a day or a slow process, but like whenever you really decided, okay, I got to shift my belief system, I got to shift my mind, I got to start going towards love. And what was that process like?
Yeah, I'm still in that process. Actually, the last time I did some energy work there, talking about how I'm closed off in my heart center. And actually, it was an astrology reading from a dude from India. He was talking about, I have all these chest tattoos, and he's like, that blocks your heart chakra. And I have all these skeletal issues, right? It's so hard. You got to do body work. So I've closed myself off for a long time. And again, that's that avoidance tendency and the fear of being hurt, you know? And so it's interesting to talk about dogs. I've always been able to just love dogs because they love you unconditionally, but they never hurt you. You know, you don't have to be afraid of them hurting you. So I think that really that work has been done with Callan. Like learning that I can lean into the conflict and it's going to be okay. Like we're going to work things out. So I think that getting into relationship and sticking in the relationship and doing that hard work, again, that is neuroplasticity. We're creating new thinking patterns with each other so that we can come to a place of secure attachment. Like I don't have to run away and she doesn't have to think that I'm going to leave her. Like after we go through conflict time and time again and we actually come back and work things out and come together, we get more into a place of secure attachment because we've built new neural pathways. We know that it can be different than we've perceived it to be for a long time.
You know, so like me and Rebel are both anxious attachment. So starting out the first few months, we would intentionally not text each other on Sundays. Like we would not talk to each other on Sundays to build that new pathway of like, okay, I love you, but I don't need you. Right?
Yeah.
To where it was like called Sacred Sundays, just like, you know, give each other that space so it didn't become this mushy mess of neediness, you know, and it's really been cool to watch. I love that concept of creating new neural pathways in relationship and how because you also brought up how you can repeat old patterns in relationship.
Oh yeah. For sure.
And deciding to go a different route can be very fruitful for your life.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Cal and I had some conflict last week and, you know, like we're on a walk talking, we get into an argument and then I'm just like, yeah, I'm done with this. And I just walk on without her and leave her behind. And like, that is my old way of being. But the new way of being is when I come back, hey, I apologize. I see what I did. It's that awareness and retraining myself. Like, that's not okay. That's not what we're doing anymore. That is an old pattern. And so that's a huge shift for me, just like disappearing for several days.
Yeah, yeah. quite the transformation.
So
I had one where like, you know, Rebel was learning, we were on the mountains, she was learning how to ski and I was going through it having my moon in Pisces existential, crisis. And I was like, man, I'm going to just dart down the mountain on this one, and I was like in a race with myself. And then like I get to the bottom of the mountain and then I was just like waiting for him. I was like, well, now I'm lonely, and then I realized like the metaphor for that being, I like watching her grow and being behind her while she's doing, while she's walking her path. I love supporting her more than I love getting to the bottom of the mountain quickly.
Yeah. Well, because if you get there alone, what was the point?
What's the point, man? And you just gotta wait for someone, and so that new neural pathway of like, I'm also watching how many times I say like on the Refreshcast for your enjoyment, and watching it on the replay is brutal sometimes.
I'm telling you, it really is. Yeah, I feel that.
And so I love this. I love this topic so much. Let's see what practices can help strengthen positive neural pathways in the brain.
So we touched on some of them, but one, meditation is one of the most powerful ways. In fact, meditating for 12 to 15 minutes a day for 8 weeks will actually start to create new neural pathways. It's been scientifically proven.
So 8 weeks?
8 weeks of 12 to 15 minutes a day. Journaling. So I have this primary journaling practice that I do and I have my clients do. And it's like releasing the negative emotions in I feel statements, doing a gratitude list, and then writing out your top 3 goals in present tense, affirming that you have that which you are looking for. And so you are actually promoting neuroplasticity by doing that, especially when you do it consistently and repeat it over and over and over again. And so that's huge for me. Affirmations. So the subconscious mind of the mind is always like beating us up, right? It's just like, oh, you're not good enough. Like, you don't have enough money. And so being aware of those thoughts coming and then claiming the opposite out loud, which can be easier said than done, especially when you're in a dark place and you're kind of depressed, especially when you've kind of been on this path, you know what to do, right? You know what you're supposed to do to get yourself out of it. But there's a part of us that loves it. We love being down in the dumps and feeling sorry for ourselves. So it's being aware of that and then claiming the opposite. So if I'm really struggling with feeling like I'm not successful in my business or financially, actually claiming like I am successful and destined for success. Like everything is always working out for me. Money consistently flows to me with ease. And it's interesting because, since I've been on this path consistently, there's times of trial and tribulation where it seems like everything is fucked. Like my business is going down, I'm losing all of my money, but then something shifts and it all works out. So over time, it gets easier to realize, like, yes, I'm in this time of trials and tribulations, but it's just making me stronger. And something is going to shift eventually if you just keep doing the next right thing in front of you. And that's developing those new neural pathways, knowing that, in the past, I try to do something, it goes wrong, it's like, fuck it. Can't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm getting fucked up. Screw it. And now it's like, I don't have to do that anymore. And so that is the magic of neuroplasticity. Now, when I face a big failure, instead of going automatically to like, yeah, I'm a fuck up, there's nothing I can do about it, just screw it. It's, okay, well, what is this teaching me? How is this developing me? How am I growing through this experience? And just making that shift, that neuroplasticity, then your experiences externally are going to start to reflect that over time.
And, as you're talking about that, I realize there's more potential in like, instead of just writing the affirmation, I want to get into it. I want to be like, I'm successful.
Yeah.
I'm wealthy, like make it a whole moment in time where, hey, Big Aaron's going to go into his room for 10 minutes and just shout that he is destined for greatness and really feel that. Because I bet that has a profound impact on the neuroplasticity of the brain, inhabiting the emotions of really feeling your...
Yeah, it's totally key. In fact, when I would drive to my office previously, it was always thanking God, like, Thank you, God, that you gave me the exact right words at the right time. Thank you for bringing me the right clients who are ready for what I have to offer. Thank you that success always comes to me. And yeah, you're feeling excited because you're speaking in gratitude. So it already is. And yeah, there's something powerful about, the emotion is the key, right? So yeah,
Emotion is the key. I'm gonna make a cool thing out of that on the video. Hey ChatGPT, can you generate a photo of an emotion being a key, an emotional key? What challenges can people face while creating new neural pathways, and how do we overcome those?
I think that's the biggest thing to realize is as you're trying to create new thinking patterns, opportunities are going to come to challenge those new thinking patterns that you are trying to create. So, if Cal and I are trying to reach a place of secure attachment, there's going to be things that come up that challenge us to stay that way. And then we're going to have to recognize that and then choose secure attachment. Or, as we've been talking about with money, if I'm always claiming that I'm abundant and that I'm wealthy, there's going to be opportunities where I lose my money. And I'm going to have to continue to claim that because really we live in a place of infinite abundance. So, right now, I've been stacking money for the past few years and now I'm going to lose most of it through a lawsuit. So I can either go back to being broke or I can still claim that I am prosperous, that money does flow to me with ease. Things come, things go. It doesn't even matter that I have to give all this money because I know it's going to come back to me because I've already learned the skills necessary to bring it back. And it's those obstacles that you get to lean into and claim it despite what's going on and despite the negative feelings that are associated with that. So realizing that the obstacles in your path to whatever you're trying to create are your opportunity to become the person that is claiming what it's claiming,
I believe that'll come back for you tenfold, especially
100-fold, bro.
100-fold, for real. Whenever you're challenged with that opportunity to, okay, am I going to create a new neural pathway here, or am I going to revert to my old self-destructive behaviors? And you choose that new route. Like I had the day alone to myself yesterday. I normally would have smoked weed, but I didn't smoke no weed. And then I felt good. I could almost feel a new 100%, like something in my brain firing off. I'm looking in the mirror at the gym like, yeah. Getting buffed is something. I ain't smoking no dope.
Oh, that's awesome. Or even like in your rock career, like how you believe that you can become a famous rapper, right? You can make money this way. But how many times have you had an obstacle in your way that said, nope, you're not going to have it? How many times did you fail? But yet you continue to lean into that and continue to progress. And it's making those new belief systems because now you've had some success. You've had the actual experience of like, oh man, I did get all of these followers. I went viral several times. And then that's confirming like, okay, yes, I can have this future that I'm envisioning for myself. And then if you have another failure, you already know, well, yeah, these failures come, but you're going to come out on the other side of it. And so it's true in all areas of our life.
That's a testament to taking action. If I have a battle where it didn't go how I planned, there might be a 3 to 4 day incubation period. It might take a week, it might take a month, and just like integrating the perceived negative experience. But there's something that I've hardwired myself for productivity and ultimately love and success. So I know that if I stay the course and continue to take action, like we said, the next right action, that something's going to give.
Yeah.
And part of that comes from opening the crown chakra and activating your detachment, not necessarily, detachment and avoidance are completely different things. So, detachment in terms of, okay, well, 12K, let's just pay that off to get this over with. Exactly. And I know that it'll come back 100-fold.
Yeah.
100,000-fold. We're going to Costa Rica. Costa Rican compound. And so taking action and utilizing the process of loving detachment to take that action.
Yeah.
Whenever those neuroplastic, your old neurons from whenever you were 12 and you just wanted to scream at the world are firing off, you can take that deep breath and take action in a more constructive, productive way. And those blessings do come. They always come. I know that we're in a universe of love, and that love has been shown to me time and time again.
And, you know, it just always comes through that consistency and that repetition and like being resilient within it, which you have learned, which I'm in the process of learning. And I think that the detachment, I was actually just talking to Callan about that yesterday while we were on our hike. Like, I think so much of this lawsuit is about creating detachment to the finances, not putting my identity into it. Because when I found out I was losing that money, I felt like a failure. Like, I'm failing as a provider for my family. I'm failing as a practitioner because I'm losing my money. So my identity was actually wrapped up in the amount of money that I have. And so realizing that I'm not my money, my value isn't dependent upon how much money I have. My value is dependent upon what I bring to the collective and how we can help people, you know? So,
Yeah,
or just for being human. You're valuable because you're alive.
yeah, that's a huge thing for men to rewire is, and everybody in this culture, men have a really difficult time with attaching their identity to their level of productivity.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, man, you are loved no matter if you have $1 in the bank or $1 million in the bank. That's not where your value as a sentient being comes from. It's not your success. And I have a hard time with that too. So rewiring that fear of I'm not good enough and turning that into, dude, I'm loved. It's all gonna work out. It's all working out. Right. Of course, you have a lot to do. You're doing a lot.
Right. Well, and that's the cool thing is I think that that's a big part that people miss, especially in like the new age or spiritual realm. Is like we always want to like speak to affirmations, make the vision board, meditate and visualize, but you need that masculine side too, where you do it. If you don't do it, if you don't put in that work, put in that masculine energy, you can't create without the masculine. You can visualize all day, but if you don't take right action with that, you're not going to create anything. And I think that that's a big misunderstanding is people just want it to come to them without them doing anything. And you have to consistently take right action on top of those visualizations and journaling and all of that kind of stuff.
Do it! Do it! Do you have any final statements or conclusions, a way to summarize what we talked about with neuroplasticity here today?
I think just being willing to really commit to the process and understanding it's not going to happen overnight, that it's going to take time and consistency. And it's about combining all of these things together in all areas of life and then doing them consistently. Just
stuck with that. Nope.
But just putting in the time and the consistency, doing the work, doing the journaling, doing the affirmations, coupling it all together, and then accepting the process, the highs and the lows. And when you can take a moment to meditate and see things from above and saying that in the big picture, it's all beautiful and it is all a part of the process and it is all working out for you, even the things that we wish we were not experiencing.
Yeah, and I would say to really integrate, I think first off, the awareness of, I'm setting that intention of, okay, it's time to create some new beliefs, some new systems around my life, some new habits, some new pathways. That awareness of what are my current pathways that what are my current fail-safe routines that I'm not satisfied with.
Yeah.
And then from there you can integrate, okay, maybe you write down the old beliefs and the new beliefs. And then from there, maybe you take 10 minutes to hype yourself up and I'm fulfilling my destiny. I'm rich. I'm in love with life. You know, and that's something that I'm gonna take away from this episode too, is take that time. I'd love to do it in nature, in the earth. I think that'd be the perfect combination. So you're getting charged up from the earth. Like you try to lock Sailor out, she gonna come back in. But she loves us. She's helping us create new pathways of love. And yeah, the I think integrating all of those, the written word, the spoken word, bioenergetics and biomechanics of the earth, energizing yourself, you can set yourself up for success. Life doesn't have to be this drudgery. It doesn't have to be this tragic, sad existence. You can start today in whatever capacity you have to create a new life and lifestyle for yourself, full of love and bliss and abundance, really rocking out on your soul's purpose.
So I think that it's, you know, oftentimes in the spiritual community, we talk about creating your own reality. And I think it's more of that you choose your perspective of reality, right? And that's how you actually create it. Because things happen, but if your belief system or your perspectives on that is what really alters your realities, how you choose to perceive it. Because you can either be the victim of all these negative things that are happening, or you can perceive them as being for you to help you grow and develop. And that choice is what really determines where you end up.
All right, Refresh Cast, man. Another one in the cut.